part of the book, there's like the steps that we go through for, you know, fostering compassionate culture. And much of it is drawn again from the ancient wisdom traditions. And I just want to make sure I do raise that with folks, because we talked about culture, about choosing your values and choosing wisely, because they have ripple effect consequences throughout your community and in everything you do. And so it really starts with knowing your values. And I want to share that the ancient Greeks had thought deeply about this, and they had the philosophers were like social scientists going around examining what, and they came up with 4 values. So I wanted to share that with everyone here. And the first one was exactly like what you were saying. They chose self-control, which in their mind was like self-awareness. It was self-management, self-regulation. You can't have any other virtues if you don't have self-control, they said. It's kind of like emotional intelligence. And then the second one they chose was justice. And justice was important because if you don't have a just city, like toxic culture is what creates injustice, people turning a blind eye to harmful actions towards others. And a measure of an ideal city was a just city. So that had to first be inhabited in the hearts of its people before it was going to be in the life and conduct of the city. Then they chose wisdom, but they don't, it's not the wisdom that we know of. Like you think of philosophy, wisdom. They were talking about phronesis, which is a form of practical wisdom, which shows again their systems understanding that that you don't just go into the world and do compassionate action, that you need to think in a systems way how to have discernment to understand the causal purposes behind things and how your actions are going to have an effect in the broader community, long-term effect. So that was kind of the definition of practical wisdom that needs cultivation through civic academies, and then ultimately the cultivation of courage, because without courage, they said, you can't possibly live up to these standards. Confucius also said this. He said that, you know, if you know the right and you choose not to do it, that is simply a matter of cowardice. And this is often the case. We actually, in our hearts, know often what is right. We have that kind of compass in us, and yet we override it because it's too difficult, or we lack the skills, or that kind of a thing, which is why this education that you're talking about, the social emotional learning, this renaissance of science around compassion and well-being that we see happening everywhere is so incredibly important.